composer, musician, producer, George Sarah. It is so nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you.
George, question for you. I'm curious to know, where did you grow up and when did you realize that music was most likely going to be a part of your life for the long haul?
I grew up in Los Angeles. I wasn't born here. I was born in Seoul, South Korea. And we moved here when I was, moved to the States when I was 5. I grew up in Los Angeles. And I think that moment where I knew it was gonna be something I was gonna just, a vocation, I guess you can say, is I was 7 years old and I was at the Hollywood Bowl with my parents, and I saw and heard classical music for the first time, and it just completely blew my mind.
I love it. And obviously you've already had such an amazing, amazing, amazing career in so many different mediums. I'm curious, of your on-screen work and your music composed for that medium, are there any projects that stick out for you that were especially fulfilling?
I guess it's well, you know what? I'm gonna have to go way back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh my God, my 90s soul is screaming. I was so hoping you would say that, George.
I know, it's like I have a film that just came out this year and it's on Amazon Prime, right? So it's a new movie and it's like my music's all over it. And I'm proud of my work with that film because I had creative freedom. But I guess maybe it was like the first time where, I really, prior to that, I was struggling. I was always like just barely getting by. And then when Buffy happened, it was like on a national level, and so what happened was Marty Noxon was one of the writers for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She wrote a character and she was listening to my music while she was working on the episodes and decided to incorporate a band into this werewolf character. It was season 4. Her name was Veruca. And they said, we want to license your music to be used on the show for several episodes. And she's going to have a fictitious band. And would you also like to be on the show and play the keyboard player? And I was like, yes, and it was like, that was kind of like, so I was on set for several days. And
so you not only were getting paid for your music being licensed, but you were an on-screen actor, George.
Yeah, so I got paid as an actor. They actually paid for like a year of the actor, whatever it is. I'm not an actor.
SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah. So they actually paid for that. So I had and then I got the licensing fees. Plus I got paid as an actor. But because I own the music, every time those episodes aired, I would collect residuals. So it was just like this, it kind of opened my eyes going, why, like you could do music and release it, but you could also present your work in other mediums. And back then it wasn't so common,
Yeah.
Like I had a little bit of hesitation. I was like, wow, am I selling out? Am I doing this? Like, are people going to still think I'm cool? And I was like, yeah, I have to, because I'm broke,
George, it's called show business. That's what you can tell your friends.
Right. But no, it's just one thing. I grew up with punk rock, like when I was after classical music, when I was 13, I got really into that whole thing, and which is really great because it was all about doing it yourself. It was about, don't wait around to someone to come around and discover you. Make it happen. Build your fan base, right? So it was sort of like, that's why in the 80s you saw those like independent magazines and independent record companies and independent artists, right? So college radio really came into forefront where they would be playing demos on, middle of the afternoon. So yeah, I mean, it was just a thought for a second, but once I got involved and then I started licensing some of my music a lot, now I have probably 100 songs on all these different shows. And sometimes I don't even keep track of it because it's not that it's not a big deal, but it's sort of like, hey, we're going to use 13 of your songs on I Love Jenny, and it's like, okay, cool. I'm not like, I like that phase of I have to see it. It kind of, not that I don't appreciate it, but it's sort of, I don't actually, like if it happens, cool. And now I'm just kind of working on the next thing. So yeah.
Absolutely. And George, you speak about the indie artists, and I think if there was ever a time, it was these last 18 months, especially for younger artists, but artists of all ages, where they were forced to take it upon themselves to create environments for themselves to create and produce their own work. And what I'm personally excited about with FENIX is I have so many friends, and now over 500 artists later over the past 5 months all over the world, who are all saying the same thing, even if it's in a different language. It's this need to connect and create now more than ever. And, obviously, I am sure you have worked with artists all over the globe. I'm curious, if you were to look back at your younger self, George, what advice would you give to him?
I would be like, be careful with more contractual stuff. I think, I had signed a deal with the Discovery Network. I scored a bunch of their episodes, and we had a verbal agreement, and then on writing, it was different. And I was scared to like say something, I saw it very much like a parallel with like kind of the Me Too movement. So, you have women who are like, kind of being taken advantage of, and they're like, and I think when you're in that, like when I was in that situation, and I said, well, I want to take the agreement home with me, and they refused to let me take my contract home. And I had a mortgage and stuff, and it was a lot of money that was presented to me for a 3-year contract. So I was like kind of scared, and I said, okay, I'll just sign it then.
Yeah, well, they were taking advantage of artists, and I mean, but that's unfortunately still done today.
Right, right. So my advice to my younger self would have been like, say no. We have a verbal agreement, and if I need to bring my lawyer in, I will. To say, because they gave me a confirmation yes on a verbal agreement, right? And then it was changed on the thing. So I had a little bit of leg room, and I know that there was a discussion amongst a lot of the staff about my terms. So it would mean that they would all have to show up to court, go under oath, and all I need is one of them to be like, no, they're screwing them over. Not that but just saying, like, it's like, don't be afraid. And sometimes you let a project go, and if it's okay to let that project go,
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because at the end of the day, it's like I come home and I work on stuff. I sit at the piano, I pick up my bass, or start playing with the synths, and that's where that's the root of where everything happens anyway. So
Yeah, that's your bliss. And
yeah, no one can take that away. So yeah.
well, you bet. And final question for you, George. And actually, before that question, I want to remind our audience for more on the incredible George Sarah and his illustrious career, and so much more to come. You can read more about him right below this video. George, what are you most optimistic about as the world slowly but surely starts to open up?
I think I'm really well, I'm just gonna speak here. I'm really I guess in many ways, and this is just my take, I'm not an expert on this subject, but I do like the fact that people all around the country like are demanding more. I think I'm seeing more people go on strike. I'm seeing more people, and it's just like to add, and I really hope, and being in Los Angeles, we just recently had something where the crew went on strike. They were going to go on strike because
IATSE.
Yeah, they weren't getting, and it still needs to be better.
Yeah.
And it needs to be way better than that. But there needs to be something like that in the music industry, and I hope it happens. I don't know, because it's not unions; everyone's an independent artist. But somehow, maybe laws get passed, on a federal level or something, where, because I still don't know. I've been on a bunch of record labels, and to this day, I don't know how many records I've sold. And I don't know when the next paycheck's going to be, and I have no idea, or when the next royalty check is going to be, and I don't know for how much, and why. There's no transparency, and I think there needs to be it. And I know that a lot of artists can set up their own through like CD Baby and stuff, and they get a weekly summary of where their music's being, you see where it's trending, you see what, you see these apps now are happening, Amazon for artists, Spotify for artists, right? like your whatever these apps where it's empowering the musician to know where their music's being sold, how it's being sold, and who's buying it. And not that you can start spamming these people, but you know, if I'm selling 2,000 CDs in Milwaukee, well, I'm going to do a show there. You know what I mean? Because you know, for some reason, there must be an NPR station that's playing my music, or something happened there. But you know, it just kind of helps you get a better understanding, and therefore, you know, you can do that. So I hope something happens where better laws are passed so that there's more transparency, because at the end of the day, it's our music.
That's right.
But it's
That's
like
right.
this notion that, yeah, you'll see a statement in 6 months, maybe,
Yeah.
you know,
No.
it's like,
Enough's enough. And look at, I think you hit the nail on the head, George. I think not only are all people, but especially artists now more than ever, are stepping into their power, you know, because in this country, we have a lot of freedoms, you know,
yeah,
and one of them is to speak up. And this is what I love about FENIX and the CEOs who are friends, that they also are saying enough is enough, and they're showing, and not telling, but showing by providing, you know, this platform that's a safe space for artists to finally be compensated for their worth, and yes, to be able to track it. I mean, it's like this like weird thing that, what, how are artists not been able to do this for all time? It just doesn't make sense to me that artists have been taken advantage for far too long, and enough's enough.
yeah.
Well, listen, George, I'm so grateful for your time today. You're incredible, and
You
thank
too.
you.
Thank you, Will.